Greetings, everyone. We did a short video on the situation in Russia and Ukraine. We've been having this discussion in a number of platforms. Comrades in Zimbabwe raising different issues. What is apparently clear is that there is no understanding from most comrades on what is happening in Russia, Ukraine. They think that there are some who think that President Putin is a warmonger, and others because they are victims of imperialist propaganda as propagated by CNN, BBC, and the other news agencies controlled by the West, which then present Russia as a country that is on a mission to invade Ukraine. But we want to, in this video, just bring this closer to home so that there's a better understanding of what is happening in Ukraine, Russia. So we ask, what are the lessons for Zimbabwe? Because if we pause this question for a moment, comrades might understand to say, what are the lessons for Zimbabwe? And so that we do not have what is happening in Ukraine, Russia, happening in the SADC region. So the question is, what are the lessons for Zimbabwe? And we hope that by raising this question, it will assist the comrades to have a better understanding of what is happening. But it's also critical for communists that we refer back to the national question as written, the article written, or the essay written by Stalin when he wrote the national question, so that it guides us in understanding this. So it's a long article that Stalin wrote. Some comrades are saying Stalin was asked by Lenin, Comrade Lenin, to write his views on the national question. And of course, others are saying it was Lenin who actually wrote it, but signed under Stalin. That's a discussion for our political school, which will settle there. But what is instructive in what Stalin wrote when he wrote in the national question, he said, I quote, "Thus the right of self-determination is an essential element in the solution of the national question." He was discussing the national question, and what is happening in Ukraine is part of, it's a continuation of the discussion of the national question. So the question we are posing is, what are the lessons for Zimbabwe? We know that in the eastern part of Ukraine, a genocide is underway. Just like we had a genocide in Matebeleland and the parts of Midlands in the 1980s, from 1983 to 1987, there was a genocide known as Gukurahundi. And it is a historical fact that the people of Matebeleland have ties with South Africa. Whether they are linked to the Zulu, they are cousins of the Zulu, whether the Ndebele, with the Ndebele in South Africa, whether the Soto in Kwanda, around Kwanda area, with the Soto in Northwest, whether the Tswana, there is that interrelationship between the people of Matebeleland and the people of South Africa. Just as the people in Donbass in Ukraine have relationship with the people in Russia. You have in Donbass people who are of Russian origin separated by the border. Now, and they regard themselves as Russians, even though they do not raise the Russian national flag. But they are now in Ukraine, in the eastern part of Ukraine. Just as you have in the western part of Zimbabwe, Matebeleland, who share a border with South Africa, you have along a bed bridge on one side, the vendor across Limpopo in South Africa on the other side, the vendor on the Zimbabwean side. And these are basically one people, one family. It is in this region that Gukurahundi, the genocide, happened in the 1980s, as we all know. We will not discuss because the reasons why there was Gukurahundi, because the video is not about Gukurahundi, but it's about understanding what is happening in Russia, Ukraine. Now, if at the time Gukurahundi was happening, South Africa was not under apartheid rule, then the relatives or the cousins of in South Africa of Matebeleland would then say, no, we cannot allow our cousins to be butchered in a genocide. We must protect them. President Putin says a genocide is ongoing in Donbass and we cannot allow our people to be butchered. We need to protect them. And that the West then characterized as an invasion of Ukraine. It's also important to note that 8 years ago, as we said in the last video, that the people in those two regions, which are now independent, went to a referendum and resolved that they want to stand alone or declare independence. And as Stalin, writing in the national question, says, thus national autonomy does not solve the problem. What then is the way out? The only correct solution is regional autonomy, autonomy for such crystallized units as Poland, Lithuania, the Ukraine, the Caucasus, etc. That's what Stalin wrote in the national question. Of course, I'm not getting into the debate of the Mtoga's restoration. But assuming if during the Gukurahundi, the genocide, as it was happening in Matebeleland and parts of Mikens, and excuse me, and South Africa was not under apartheid rule, and South Africa would have moved in to protect the people in Matebeleland because of the shared relationship between the two. Would that have been constituted as invasion of Zimbabwe by South Africa in protecting their relatives who are under attack or were under attack from a genocide in Matebeleland? It's a question that obviously we will need to discuss to say what are your views to this question. Now, Putin goes to recognize the independence of those regions. And Stalin, writing in the national question, says, as I have alluded, that those that want to, if they think there's a compelling reason for them to want out, they should pull out if they want to. So that means every nation has a right to self-determination. And the regions in Donbass have decided, not only today, but 8 years ago, that they want to have self-determination. They want to be independent from Ukraine. And the President Putin simply recognizes that what the people in those regions have said. And we have said that American democracy is based on the protection of its own economic interests and the plundering of resources of other nations. We will discuss Ukraine, what attracts the West to Ukraine economically. But for now, let's confine this so that our comrades in Zimbabwe have a better understanding. So if Matebeleland, as was the case in 1922, 1923, when there was a vote to say should Matebeleland be part of South Africa, or it should have self-rule as Rhodesia as it was known then? In Matebeleland, the whites that voted 1922-23, they voted that Matebeleland should be part or should have been part of South Africa. The whites in Harare voted otherwise. This is why Matebeleland did not become what you might want to call today the 10th province of South Africa. But if that were to happen in a democratic process, and Matebeleland decide to have self-determination and declare its independence democratically in an election, in a referendum, and then because they would have voted for self-determination, then a special army is sent to commit a genocide. Then South Africa moves in to protect the people, because in a war situation, it is common cause that refugees from Matebeleland will then flood South Africa. And South Africa will then have a reason to say, we are now hosting thousands and thousands of refugees on our soil. Let us protect Matebeleland and stop the ongoing genocide. Will that then be constituted as an invasion by South Africa? There are over 61,000 refugees on Russian soil from the Donbas region. And the President Putin and the Russians are saying, let's protect the refugees, let's protect the people in those regions. Does this then constitute an invasion of Ukraine? So we thought we needed to bring it closer home so that we continue to have this discussion, so that when we are debating this, we do not debate this through the lenses of the Western media, but we must be able to bring it home. Of course, just to put a disclaimer, the Zimbabwe Communist Party has never discussed the question of restoration, Mtwagazi or other emerging states in Africa for that matter. Of course, we have supported Southern Cameroons and we continue to support them. Southern Cameroon for reasons that we'll articulate later on when we do our international series. But we wanted to bring this closer to home so that comrades should then understand what is happening in Russia, Ukraine. Want to hear your views? Please write to us. And I also, as I'm concluding, comrades should get the copy of the national question by Stalin, so that comrades are able to have a better understanding when we say nations have a right to self-determination if they feel it is the right thing for them to do. Otherwise, comrades, write your comments, share your views with us. Let's continue with the discussion. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Otherwise, Amandla, comrades.